Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the flight deck. We're going to carry on with our ATR lessons here. We have entered everything into the FMC. Everybody is now on board. Bags are all on board. It is time to get the aircraft up, going, and get us on our way out of Wellington up towards Auckland. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop over to the panel here. And we're going to leave the ground power and wheel chocks for now, but we're going to close the main door and pull the tail prop. As I said, bags and everything are on board and we are pretty much ready to go. So we're going to set our altimeter. That is done over on this side with the barrel button. So the current altimeter here in New Zealand is 1007. It's showing both hectopascals and inches of mercury, which is handy, but we want 1007. There we go, and that will set on the standby and it will set over on the other side. So that is done there. You can see the IRSs are aligned. They all aligned as we were programming everything and discussing. There is a checklist that you can use. I don't use it. I have a paper one, so I will be clearing that off of there. And you can just hit clear a couple times and clear all those messages. And we are good to go. So we're pretty much ready for engine start, or at least starting up the engine to get electrical power going to the plane. So that's called hotel mode. Basically, you're running the engine as a generator. We already put the prop brake on, if you remember, and you can see up here it says prop brake. So that is good. Now, if you're using GSX, one thing you have to do is call for your tug before you start the engine, or else it'll tell you that ground services are not available. So you can push the aircraft back using the engines alone in a reverse and use it that way, but we're going to use the tug. Alright, so we'll get our pushback. There they come. So we're going to discuss the hotel mode. So the engine will be running.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
At a fairly low power. It won't provide all the power necessary since the engines aren't spooling up and the generators are running at full tilt, but it is enough to start the aircraft without it being connected into the ground power itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to turn on the wing lights. So turning on the wing lights, which are located
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin
here
inserted.
on the panel, they illuminate the engines, and especially at night, it's just an indication to the ground crew that you're going to be starting up the engines. Apparently, it's an agreed upon practice with the ATRs, and that is what they do. So we're going to let them get hooked up, and then once we get the indication where they say, do you want to go left or right, we're just going to let it sit there until we're ready for the actual push.
Locking gear.
And we're going to power up the engine and go through a few other things we have to turn on. So while they're doing that, one other thing, there are hot spots you can find in the panel here. So there's that. We're just going to let that sit. Display hot spots. You can see them all here. You can change different things. Instead of finding the buttons and doing it all that way, you can actually do it through the hotspots. And I'm going to do it for a couple different things. The other thing I'll show you is once we put in the information into the system, it's now showing there's all our weights and everything is all properly entered in, and it shows our maximum takeoff weights and landing weights and all that. And there's our performance numbers there, but they are hooked up and we are ready to start up that engine. So we have turned on the wing lights. We're now going to turn on the beacon, let them know we're going to be starting up. Now it is engine number 2, so we're going to come over here. We're going to turn on fuel pump number 2 to run. So we'll come down, beacon is on, everything is good. We're going to bring the starter down to start A and B, and then we're going to start engine number 2. So coming down here, we can see that the engine is starting to spin up, but we have no fuel in there yet. So we're going to come down to the condition levers, and on engine 2, we're going to advance it to flight ready, or FTR. You can see it now spooling up, oil pressure's coming up. But if we look at our torque is 0. So we're getting exhaust temperatures and everything is all good, no torque. And if we run outside, we can hear it's going. We can see the heat coming off the engine, but the prop isn't spinning. That is because, once again, we have the prop brake on and it is holding it in place. So it is not ready to go. So it is providing electrical power and some other stuff. So we're going to carry on with our checklists as we work down. So we're going to come up here to our hydraulics, and we are going to turn on our blue and green hydraulics. Make sure those are up and running. We're going to come over to oxygen. We're going to open up the main supply, make sure our crew and passenger oxygen is set. Come down here now for our takeoff data. We are set. We got a 108, 108, and 111 for our V speeds. And our FCP. So we're going to set that up. We're going to be climbing right up to 19,000. So we're going to come over here to our altitude select and bring that right up to 19,000. Now I find that on takeoff, when you turn the autopilot on, especially when if you're using the indicated airspeed mode for your climb angle, it wants to nose down until you're up and going. So I'm going to work around that, and I'm going to work around that by, we're going to use nav. We'll turn that on. There's LNAV. I'm going to use vertical speed, and I'm going to use vertical speed by coming here, and I'm going to set a 1,000 foot per minute climb rate, and that's going to be my initial climb as we go out. And hopefully that'll prevent the nose from dropping down too far once we turn on the autopilot. But the autopilot is currently off, which is what we want. So the FCP is all set up. I'm going to come up now. We're going to turn fuel pump number 1 on. We're going to check our fuel quantity. Fuel quantity is good. Landing elevation is set to automatic. Seatbelt signs are confirmed on. Fuel used is 0, since we haven't really gotten anything going yet. Probes and de-ice. De-ice is off. We're now going to turn on the probe heats. And as we get ready to start, we're going to come down here to the power management. There's 4 settings: takeoff, maximum continuous power, climb power, and cruise. Never had to use maximum continuous yet, so we usually go from takeoff to climb, and then once we're in cruise, we go to cruise, and then just before landing, we go back to takeoff in case we have to go around. Flight directors, we can see, are currently on both sides. Radios. You can see our radio information here. So we're going to, on COM 1, we're going to click in there. We're going to go to Unicom 122.8. We'll hit enter, and then switch it over. Second radio, we're going to come down. We're going to turn on guard, which is 121.5. That's the ELT channel, and the one that the Air Force would contact you on if they wanted to intercept you. So that is now set. We're going to come down here to our surveillance page. We're going to go to our transponder. We're going to set that to 2000. And that is set. It is on standby, and we're using transponder number 1. TCAS is on auto. And we'll come down to our nav now. PFD SVS, that's synthetic vision. If we turn it on, you can see it shows kind of the synthetic vision. We're not going to be using that at all. ND is the overlay, so our TCAS is set for above. Our radar here, we are going to set it for terrain for our initial. and you can put in nav aids and airports as well. ADF frequencies we can tune in, and VOR frequencies we can tune in. And we are going to tune in the local VOR, which is the Wellington VOR of 112.3. So that will go into here, and that is 112.3. We'll hit enter, switch it over. We can also auto tune as we fly along, and it will show everything up there as well. So that's all that's set, and the radio's set. We can go back up to comms, and that is good. We're going to set our trim now. It was 1.1 up, so we'll go up on the trim. I went the wrong way. And that Pac-Man noise is the trim in motion warning. We want 1.1. And using the electric trim, there we go. Transponder we have set. Doors are closed, equipment is clear. We can come over now. And we can come up top. And because we're running on the other stuff, we can turn off the external power. Now that's gone off because the engine's not up at full speed. And we can disconnect our external power. And then coming over here, we can tell them to take all that away. And we'll go over here to our flight plan. You can also bring in your flight plan from SimBrief if you're in there. There's our information. Some of our weights, passengers, we have 62 passengers on board. And it gives the METARs for your locations as well, so that's a handy thing. So we're good there, and we are good to push and start. So sitting here, we're going to want to taxi out. We're going to push out here, and we're going to go tail to our left, nose to our right, and we'll be good to go. We're getting a little bit busy down here, so we can bring up our.
You need to stop the engines to request ground services.
All right.
You need to stop the engines to request ground services.
One thing I was afraid of. And that is a bit of a pain, especially when you're trying to do these type of starts. The only other option you can do is have it go right to where it keeps telling you to release the parking brake, release the parking brake, release the parking brake. It becomes a bit of a pain. So let me get that set up, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're now ready for our engine start. Both fuel pumps are on, beacon lights on, strobes are on, off, sorry, nav lights are on, wing lights are on. We are good to go. So we're going to come down here. We've told them tail left, nose right.
Commencing push.
Brakes are released.
All engines clear. Start at will.
So first thing we're going to do is we're going to release the lock on the number 2 engine, but we need some hydraulic pressure, so we're going to do 5 clicks on the hydraulic pump. That gives us the ready, so there's hydraulic pressure in there. To release it, we're going to come down here, prop brake off, re-guard it, it's unlocking, and we should have the engine spinning up. And there we go. So we can now come down here and we can start the right engine. So pump is already running, starter is already set, so we're going to click start number 1. We got a rise in the engine percent. We'll add fuel. Interior turbine temperatures are coming up. We got oil pressure coming up. We're pushing out nicely to the line.
Please set parking brakes.
And parking brakes are now set.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Alright, so we have a good engine start on both engines now, as you can see. They're up and spinning, so we can tell them to go away.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
So we're going to finish our engine start checklist. So both engines are up and running. If we come up top to our panel, we're going to take a look. Hydraulic power, that's fine. with the lights, because we're going to show you what happens in a second. Everything is good. There's no other white lights. Prop brake is off, and everything is good there. So we're going to turn off our engine start selector. That goes into off. And once they are clear of the front of the aircraft, we'll bring the condition levers up to auto, and that gets us into...
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass
I think he
pit
just
reversed.
drove through us. Yeah, there he goes.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
Alright, so while she walks away, we can come down here. We're going to put our condition levers into auto. You see the torques are going to start to come up. And there they go. You can hear the sound starting to change. Everything is looking good. There she is. We had the wave, she's walking away. So the engines are now up and properly running, and if we come back up overhead again, you can see we're going to do a quick run looking for any white lights, but everything is looking good. Everything is on properly. Everything is off that needs to be off, and everything is looking nice. So last thing we're going to do before we get ready to finish off and then taxi is we're going to set up our main screen. So if we come up, we can select, should be able to do it here, but we'll do it the easy way. We'll come down here, we'll go to ND, and that brings up our display. We want to go into this mode for my display at 10 miles, and I like to use the complete circle over here at 20 miles, and we can do the range here. It's the other way, it's add miles, there we go. 20 miles out, that gives us a nice look, and we're going to come down here and set him up. So that's over here, surveillance. I'm going to give him the nav. He's going to get the weather radar, which is currently on, and he'll be in normal TCAS mode. And I'll put him there. And then for myself, I'm going to go into terrain mode, and I'm going to go TCAS above, which is what we have set up there as well. And I just we're also going to turn the weather radar to standby. It does work, sort of. And everything is ready to go. So moving down the rest of our list here, we're going to go to make sure we got full hydraulic power. Everything is good. We're going to go flaps to takeoff, which is the first notch. Two positions of flap. I think it's 15 and 30. 15 for takeoff. Anti-skid will test. There's the button there. Comes up. Anti-skid worked. We'll clear that. And flight control. So down here we're going to remove the gust lock, and we can do our control check. It's full left, full right, neutral, full forward, full back, neutral. There's left rudder, right rudder, neutral. And our autopilot, we already set it up. We're set for LNAV, vertical speed, and the autopilot is currently turned off. So we're ready for taxi now. Taxi light is going to go on. Nav lights on beacon already on. Logo light we don't need, it's daytime. Wing lights will shut off now. Anti-air is not required. Now this is where they get into a little bit of difference. A lot of these aircraft, they will taxi out on one engine, start the second engine on the way to the runway. And same as when they land, they'll shut off one engine and taxi back on one engine. Problem I find with this airplane is it's very hard to handle on the ground with just one engine, especially trying to turn it. So I run both. But that's the way it is. So we'll go to the bleeds. Bleeds are fine, 21 degrees in the back. Wild electrical power, there are no white lights. Engine instruments are all checked. Everything looks good. Pitot heat is on and start selector mode is confirmed off. And we are good to taxi. So we're going to taxi out and head down to the end of runway 34, and we'll see you when I get there. One really cool thing about this airplane is that it will, with no power added, it will taxi at about 20-21 knots, which is slightly fast for this type of airplane, but at least it gets you going and you don't have to worry about too much. So we're going to pull up to the old short line here at runway 34. We'll go right down to the end. Do our checks, as they call them, our pre-departure checks. So, takeoff configuration, we come down here, there's a button right down here at the bottom right of the pedestal. We'll push it, an alarm go off if things are not correct, but it said it was okay. Power management is confirmed in the takeoff position. Speeds are checked. On the V speeds, I find that it's better to wait until your V2 speed before you pull back, and pull back gently. I still occasionally get a tail strike because I'm a little bit too aggressive, but pull back gently until you are climbing, and things will work out there. So the FCP is set, nav data is all good, fuel quantities are good, and the annunciator lights are good. So we're ready for takeoff. Strobe lights are coming on. Taxi light is on takeoff. Landing lights will come on both sides. Transponder. Should be on. Let me just make sure it's on. Transponder is now on. And we've got it, our TCAS set to above. Automatic torque on both engines is set. Clock, we'll hit the ET button, and that will, on takeoff, once the wheels are off the ground, it will start our clock for our lapse time. Runway is confirmed 34. We'll now move out and take position. Again, she'll, without even adding any power, she'll start to roll. Now, for takeoff, we're going to go into the notch position, which I'll show you. I don't have detents on my throttle, so I have to do it by looking. And in order to do that without the aircraft taking off and then veering away, we'll stand on the brakes until we get the throttles into the right position, and then we'll head off. Alright, so we are properly lined up and pretty much ready to go. So we're on the brakes. Everything is good. We're lined up and we are set. Runway is confirmed. So here we go. So down here on the throttles, we got various areas here. These white bars, the bottom of the white bars at about 66 is notch, and then we got max power. So what we're going to do is slowly advance the throttles through idle up to notch, and they'll click in. There they are. They both just clicked in, although you can't feel it as you move the throttles. The engines are up and running. So we're going to release the brakes, we're going to climb out. It will be gear up, flaps up, power management to climb, and then autopilot. Alright, so brakes are released. She is a little bit squirrely, it's a small airplane, and the wind can affect it as well if you've got a bit of a crosswind, so you've always got to turn into the wind as you roll. Airspeed's live. Knots. So at 111, I'm going to start to pull back. There we go. You can see how she kind of leaps up. That's the tail strike. Yeah, it happens. All right, so there's positive rate. Gear up. It's that low tail. Still working on doing it nice and gently and not over rotating, but it's a skill that's going to have to come. Alright, so there's 500 feet. We can go up on the flaps. We're now going to go into climb mode. There we go. And autopilot can come on. We now have vertical speed, and she's setting herself up to keep climbing up to 1,000 feet per minute. We're going to let the speed come up to about 170, and then that's where we'll switch over to indicated airspeed for the rest of our climb. Heading off to our first waypoint, and we're going to basically head up over the mountains over here to the west coast of the North Island. Zoom out by clicking on the top of the screen. See our terrain start to turn green. Everything is looking good for clearances. Climbing at 1,000 feet per minute. There's the movement on the needle. We're now making our turn. We're almost up to 170. We're going to set 170 there. We'll come over here now and go to indicated airspeed mode, which is set. So we're going to hold that 170 for our entire climb up to 19,000 feet. So we're going to continue with our post checks. Autopilot yaw damper is on. Annunciator light, so we're all good. 13,000 feet will be transition. So we don't climb very fast in this airplane. It's not like the other jets, so you always got to be keeping an eye on terrain, watching what's going on. It is a slow climb. We're only going up at 1,400 feet per minute. So it does take you a while to get up to cruise, but there you can see, looking good as we climb up. And you can see we're holding that 170 knots, and then we'll adjust our vertical speed as required. So we're going to keep climbing up. Once we hit transition, we will change over to standard pressure, which we can actually kind of do now as we're climbing right through. So there we go, we're over to standard. And as soon as we turn at upload, see our distance coming down. There's the turn. And we're en route. So we can click out a little bit more. I usually go to 80 miles. You can see there's where we should come up. So this is where we're programmed to, but based on our climb rate and characteristics, these will end up matching, and we'll end up climbing, getting to our top of climb about there. So there we go. So let's quickly pop down here. We can take a look at a few things. So you can see we're still on our takeoff. If we go to our progress page, you can see where our next waypoint is, and then our one after that gives us our distance. Estimated time will be there at 4:30. This is 4:06, 3:56, and the distances and what altitude we should be at. Gives us our top of descent. We're an hour and 3 minutes away from there, and what our estimated time into our destination is right there. And of course we're leaving the flight plan over on the first officer's side. Alright, so thank you very much for joining us. On our next video we're going to brief our descent, get it all set up, and I'll bring you straight in through the descent, our arrival, our approach, landing, and taxi in and shut down. So we'll see you soon on the next one. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Trying to get to 700 by the end of the summer. I know we can do it, and you can help me there. So we'll see you then. Bye for now.